Hola, boys. Smurflu checking in today because it just keeps getting worse for Real Madrid, losing 2-0 to Manchester City today on a performance that, yeah, we got a lot to talk about. I think it was an interesting performance. I've seen a lot worse from Madrid, but more importantly, it comes after getting 2 wins in the past 8 matches for this team. Xabi Alonso is on his a very, very tight rope with Florentino Perez. And I don't know how hot it's looking, especially considering the games in which they're doing poorly are the games in which make a season. And I'm going to elaborate more on that. But back to this game in which I think they actually played okay. Like it was interesting because I think it went back to kind of what they're more comfortable with. It was just the type of football that they're used to. The counterattacking, not that brilliant, not that great football. And I do think they got fortunate with not getting yellows. I was surprised I didn't see it called back to see Fede Valverde's tackle on Doku on like when he slid through him by the corner flag. There were a couple other fouls on Doku that maybe could have been a yellow card, but the ref wasn't really giving them. But I'm just confused because Phil Foden got one in like the 5th minute. So for him to give one there and then not give him later in the game, it was a little weird. It was a little weird. And then obviously the Rudiger no call. I think those are the big takeaways, the big refereeing decisions that were either not given or forgiven besides the penalties. I can't believe Rudiger did not go off that immediately after not giving a yellow card for basically the exact same thing, potentially for less as well. Whatever. Whatever, dude. Rudiger stayed on there. Now he can play in the next game. They're so lucky because they would have been so light in the midfield. I know it is a couple weeks, I believe, until the next match, but still, we'll get into the table in a second. This game, they did okay. They did some good counterattacking football. You see some opportunities here. I think this is more generous to City than it probably should be. You see Madrid had a decent amount of the ball, but only created 1.44 XG. We're just not that spectacular. We're counterattacking, though, and doing it decently. I think with Mbappe, they're probably a little bit better at it, but still conceding a lot of space in behind. I think they're lucky it wasn't worse than it was. But I guess you could say you couldn't look at this as an improvement for Xabi Alonso's team doing so against Manchester City, but part of the reason I think they did it is because it's against a team that's expected to control the game. So Real Madrid can sit back and just hit them on the counter. And the funny thing is that they were good at it because that's the Carlo Ancelotti ball that they've been playing for years. That's the football they're used to doing. When they go and change that, it's different. And it's actually when City were sitting deeper, Madrid could do nothing. They could not break them down. There was no solution. There was no creativity through the middle. The only option was shooting it wide or beating them on the counter. And even the shooting it wide wasn't working. I thought the center backs did a great job clearing headers. Gvardiol did great. O'Reilly was fantastic. This guy's special. He ended up scoring their first goal as well. Haaland scored a good pen too after very clearly putting Rudiger and Asensio on edge. I think Rudiger absolutely drags him down in the box. But that is the B backline for Real Madrid. It's not expected to be that. It's probably at best Eder Militao and Hausen or Huysen, whatever the hell you want to pronounce it. And that's not going to be around for a little while. And so this gives me some pause that they aren't going to be, even if they are even if they are like proactively doing swell going forward against good teams or bad teams for that matter, that finish, I don't know how well they can do just because they are going to concede. Obviously, that's what they've been doing in these past 8 games. They just have not been defensively clean at all. They concede a lot of goals, a lot of space, especially for these teams that sit back. And even today, in a game where they were able to kind of revert to a slightly different style, where they were not pushing as much, they were not playing wild Xabi Alonso ball like you would expect. They haven't really been all season. They've been trying to, but then that's a bigger conversation about Xabi not being allowed to play this kind of 3 at the back setup like he was at Leverkusen. Apparently, Perez won't let him do that. I don't really know the details about that because I don't know the inner workings of Real Madrid. So I don't really know what's going on with that. But the main thing here is that I'm not seeing a significantly higher opportunity for Madrid to win games either way. Right? Today, I think they could have won, say Mbappe's on the pitch, but I think even saying a win is a little generous, is genuinely a little bit generous because City had a lot of opportunities too. I think Rudiger gets sent off there half the other times this game occurs, meaning this game goes differently. And even if Mbappe's on the pitch, right? You guys see what I'm saying? The counterattacking opportunities for the opponents are still going to happen against Madrid. Are still going to trouble Rudiger, who's not fit. He's not the same player he was. He's making mistakes. He always pulled guys down before, but he got away with it. He's not anymore because he's slower. He's less smart because he just is not the player he once was. It happened obviously today. Asensio is not a great center back. Haaland very clearly got in his head, and I'll address his penalty call or the non-call. It was very clearly initiated entirely by Asensio. He clearly got into the box preparing to do that. Not only does he have a hold of his man, but he also sticks his leg in between the other guy's legs to initiate that fall. It's blatant and obvious that he's trying to get a foul there when Haaland's making a run on the ball and Rudiger just is straight behind him, not doing anything but pulling him down. It's a very different thing there. And that's just the defensive tactics and tactics in general that these guys are used to, right? You see them taking these extra steps in the box a lot. You saw it with Brahim Diaz. When the ball was kind of running away from the box, they know how to draw penalties. They know how to make that contact. I think Man City are also lucky that first foul on Vinny was not a pen. I think it's very clearly not a pen because he hits his steps outside the box, hits the foot of the other guy. I think it was Matheus Nunes, and then lands back outside the box. It's not a penalty, and I think maybe on another day that is, but they just can't keep relying on those pens and then to score those pens and go on. They just do not play great football. Rodrigo got his first goal. We saw Endrick today, and yet I'm just left unimpressed. I don't think Jude was great today. I don't think anybody was really spectacular. I think Vinny looked better, but then fluffed the header. He tried to do that acrobatic scissor kick, didn't come off, and that's a hard opportunity, but he's only having to do that because he rushed the far post instead of staying deeper where he could have collected that ball and hit it first time with his head or his boot, but he had to pull back, if that makes sense. He was like standing here, the ball was coming back this way, and so he had to stick his leg out, do that acrobatics to even try to get a touch on the ball. Obviously, it did not work out, and I don't even think City were that good today. City are decent this season, but they're not the City they once were. They looked terribly, or just a little bit unorganized today. Bernardo Silva didn't look that good. I don't think Foden looked very good. Like, there was a lot of flaws in this team, and still, I don't know. I think there's a lot of better teams than City. I think PSG can hurt Madrid more than City did today. I think Arsenal also can. I think Bayern Munich definitely can. And that's concerning. Obviously, I'm speaking as a Barcelona fan who doesn't like Real Madrid at all, but there's a lot of issues going on here that are showing up even against bad teams. Like I said, they have lost 1 and drawn 3, I think, in their last 5 games, I think, in the league. That's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. And then the one game they actually played okay was against a better team. All the other games were not great teams, and yet they played like crap. Games that they should have controlled, where the team is going to sit back and counterattack them. They can't respond to that. So, as I was saying earlier, there's no game type, in my opinion, that really complements their style, bar maybe what Barcelona does, and leaves insane space behind. I think that's similar to what City did today, where it was basically 2v5. Of Real Madrid attackers attacking City's, Ruben Diaz and whoever the second center back was at whatever time, if it was Guardiola, if it was Nico Gonzalez stepping back, whoever it was. It just didn't look that clean today. And in getting that many opportunities, that much space, and not putting it together, that can be problematic. Now, we can go back to the league picture here to get a better idea of what the future looks like for them in the Champions League. They play AS Monaco next, and then after that they play Benfica, and I think Monaco will be easier. Monaco's been all over the place this season, as you can see. Where are they? They should be right about here. 3 draws, 2 wins in the Champions League, so they're decent, but they're not great. The only game they won, I think, in their last 5 in Ligue 1 is against PSG, so they're a very confusing team right now. Not spectacular, but hey, you never know. Ansu Fati could score a hattie. You never know. And then they also play Benfica, who beat Napoli 2-0 today. So problems can be had. Benfica's not that great, but again, things can happen. This is a team that can hurt you. as they've hurt Barcelona last season even, and Barca struggled to get past them in the groups, or in the, whatever league phase they call this, and in the knockout stages as well. It's not the greatest picture. And then in La Liga, obviously, there are 4 points back of Barcelona, but they have to play Atletico Madrid coming up. We can go directly to their squad, but they are on 12 points already, so they're going to most likely qualify, but they need to get at least 4 points to be guaranteed comfortable and to have a chance to really go to skip the first round, get in these top 8 spots, which are the ones you want to be in, basically. Skip that first round and save some game time, because they desperately need to save game time. Keep guys on lower yellow card amounts, which again, Carreras got one today. Rudiger obviously got one. Somebody else got one that I don't remember. Might have been Arda Güler. Might have been, it was Rodrigo for kicking the ball out. They're getting to a point where that can be a risk. And so against these 2 games that are not easy, right? I think Barcelona's are significantly easier. They're playing Slavia Prague and then Copenhagen, and both of them should be cakewalks. They're not going to be. Barcelona's going to screw up one way or another, because they just love to make things hairy. Even yesterday, they made things hairy at the end of the game. The game before that, in La Liga, they made the game hairy at the end of the game. Though some changes were made and everything. Same thing yesterday. We still really don't know how good they are, but Madrid are in a weird spot right now where they can be forced into a very, very unhealthy spot should they have to play in that extra round in the Champions League. All the while, I don't know how confident they are in Xabi Alonso. Here are their fixtures, their last few fixtures. Beat Athletic Club very well, played great. They obviously played very well in that game, but then lost 2-0 to Celta Vigo and then fell apart at the end of that game. Remember, where both Carreras and Fran Garcia are going to be out in their next match against Deportivo Alavés. And both of them are left backs, I remind you, so they play in the exact same position. They're going to have somebody else play there, whether that's Camavinga or whoever that ends up being. Not the most ideal situation. And then look at this list here. Obviously lost to Liverpool, but then drew with Rayo, drew with Elche, barely beat Olympiacos. They scored a lot. Mbappe scored 4, but then they ended up making it a lot hairier than it needed to be. Drew with Girona. And it doesn't get that much easier, right? The Copa del Rey game should be easy, but again, when you're a club in sort of crisis, it gets much, much more difficult, especially against a team that has nothing to lose. That's a game to keep your eye on. If you guys want to watch something where something could happen, I wouldn't be surprised if drama occurs in that game. I expect them to bounce back against Alaves, even with guys out, but then they play Sevilla, who are not good this season. They're kind of getting into that relegation conversation. And then Betis, who is a solid team this year. Barcelona just beat them 5-3, but they can hurt teams. And then Atleti, right? They already lost to Atleti this season. Who knows what's going to happen again? So they're at this pivotal period of the season too, where by the end of January, we'll know where they stand in La Liga. Then they play Villarreal, Benfica. Tough run of games here. Very tough. Or is this isn't the Supercopa? This Atleti game's in the Supercopa. All right, so that is a little bit different here. I didn't realize that's in the Supercopa. But point is, a lot of big football matches here. Then that means also after this game will be the final, which will be against probably Barcelona or Athletic Club, depending on how that semifinal goes. It's problematic. It's very difficult for this side. And Xabi Alonso is on his last legs. I don't expect him to be fired after this. I think that would be just not the most intelligent decision. I don't think Perez would want to do that either. I think they want to give him a little bit more of a chance here to figure it out. I don't think bringing a coach in right now guarantees anything different, especially with all of these injuries, and you don't really want to introduce a guy who's kind of guaranteed to fail. I think it guarantees your team to just finish in second in La Liga, not do well in the Supercopa, not do well in the Copa del Rey, and go out in the Champions League. You want to at least make a run in the Champions League, and the team I saw today, they can, especially with Mbappe on the pitch, but right now, it's looking, I got to be at best pessimistic that anything could happen, and at worst, I'm very worried about the state of this team. Actually, I'm a Barcelona fan, so I'm not worried, but as a Madrid fan, I would be worried. Though there were promising moments, and we could see where this bounces back to in the next couple weeks. But as I said earlier, the next couple weeks are not a cakewalk for this Real Madrid team. We'll see how it goes, boys. Let me know what you think, and I'll see all you guys in the next one. Peace.